How long have you been living on the streets like that? What's that like?
In hell. About it.
Residents here are aware of the problems, and sometimes help from within the community can come from the unlikeliest of sources.
With the lowest incomes in the country, it's perhaps no surprise that the nation's cheapest chippy is right here in East Marsh, where a portion of fish and chips on the side of peas will set you back only £3.
UK fish and chip prices have soared in recent years, with the classic takeaway now setting customers back £9 on average. But at Matthew's Chippy on East Marsh's Stanley Street, owner Stan Matthews explains how he keeps his prices at rock bottom.
Because I'm down on the docks, we buy our own fish. We've got our own smokehouse. So it all comes in line where we can get that product a bit cheaper. Saying that, they have gone up. We used to be £2.50, but because like gas has gone up, electric's gone up, we've up, like all the raw materials have gone up, so we have to up it by 50 pence. So for £3, we're still getting a good meal for £3.
With prices like this, and with a community in need, he serves plenty of punters every day who queue outside the door even before it opens. Some eat here every night of the week, and the product is well received, including by me.
£3 fish and chips, I mean that's a steal, isn't it?
It's great for us pensioners. Every penny counts, doesn't it?
£3 you get happy, can you? I come here for every time for fish and chips. The portion you get is brilliant.
Absolutely amazing, it's quality, good meal. You can't even buy a burger for £3.
There's not a lot of money in it. We earn enough just to pay like the mortgage, the gas, electric. That's about it. But we're feeding people. That's the way I look at it. People are coming in and they're getting more.
Yet, cheap takeaways alone aren't going to solve the issues facing Grimsby. While the cost of living crisis has exacerbated things, the challenges of the town are deep-rooted.
Are the needs here greater than anywhere else in the country when it comes to citizen advice?
They echo them. They yeah.
Tony Gaskin runs Citizens Advice for North East Yorkshire and says more people are using his service than ever before.
The last 3 years we've seen something like a 300% increase in emergency charitable support, which is food bank applications, fuel and energy donations, people needing help with homelessness. So around about 300%, which is a massive figure, and it's really worrying. We've seen an even bigger percentage increase for personal dependence payment and around about a 200% increase in council tax arrears, worryingly about another 220% on energy debts.
What is it that drives places like East Marsh, West Marsh to be so poor compared to other parts of the country?
I think we're looking at a number of factors. We're looking at that people are in part-time employment, people in long-term unemployment, people with high percentages in East and West Marsh with people with long-term disabilities and struggle to find work. When they do find work, then they're limited by the number of hours that they work. People have got struggling with the fuel costs because pre-1919 properties that are difficult to heat, difficult to insulate. So there's a raft of problems. But there's also a really engaged infrastructure trying to bring people out of poverty in North East Lincolnshire, and particularly in these two wards. And the work that's going on is remarkable. But the challenges that individuals face is huge.
So what's the best solution? Well, it depends who you ask. And some members of the public have different ideas to the experts about what's causing these issues.
I was talking to two young lads the other day, and they was on about the cost of living. I said you should have lived through the 80s, then you would have known what the cost of living was. But it's a different generation now, isn't it? They won't tolerate low wages and bad work.
Anybody could walk into a job, and now because of how can I say this, family tax credit, people realise they don't have to work anymore. They're down and take advantage of it.
A lot of people won't work because the wage and the wage often and working. say, well, that's a load of rubbish, but I spoke to people and said, well, I'm not working, the time I pay the rent, pay the council tax, there's no pay the gas, electricity, no, to get food in.
If you look at the figures, there has been no inflationary increase to benefits for 10 years other than the one last year. And in real terms, people on benefits now are about 25% worse off than they were in 2010. With the cost of living increase as it hits, then that just exacerbates that problem and makes it more severe and makes it more difficult to manage. And in the interim, in the short term, increasing benefits by the rate of inflation is the right thing to do.
But with a quarter of people in the area classed as economically inactive as of March 2023, how did this once prosperous town find itself in this situation?
¿Que vienes aquí a vivir? El oso mostrará el camino. ¿Y quién es ese oso?
¡Atención ahora que se responda! ¡Un oso por el costado! ¡Vamos, corre!
Toda la tranquilidad y el mejor contenido en exclusiva. Fibra y móvil con O2 y Movistar Plus.
Llévate los dos, lo mereces.
Ahora, en Imagine somos 100% digitales, pero también te atendemos en persona. Más info en imagine.com.
¿No sabes qué juegos llevarte? Con los juegos digitales los tienes todos contigo.
Grimsby's fishing heritage stretches back over 1,000 years, and by the mid-20th century, it had reached its peak, when over 500 trawlers a day would leave these shores in search of a catch. Then, the cod wars happened.
It seems that the countries that are barring us from the fishing grounds which have traditionally been ours are standing back now and taking the market left of us.
Between 1950 and 1976, the cod wars were a series of disputes between Britain and Iceland which changed Grimsby and British fishing forever. UK vessels had been fishing in Icelandic waters since the 14th century, but after the tiny country gained independence from Denmark, things changed. Iceland expanded the area other countries could fish from its coastline, from 4 nautical miles to an area eventually 50 times that size. While the industry was already in retreat, these moves, along with a declining cod population, decimated British fishing, and the EU's Common Fisheries Policy in 1983, which brought in additional restrictions of quotas, became the final nail in the coffin. Thousands of British fishermen lost their jobs as a result, but had to wait until the year 2000 before the government paid out any compensation for the pain caused. At Grimsby Fishing Heritage Centre, retired trawlermen still get together once a week to share stories about how they risked their lives to put fish on British plates.
Young ones of today are struggling because there isn't the work for them anymore. 85 to 90% of people in Grimsby had something to do with the fishing industry, and it hit everybody hard, and that's why we're like that now in Grimsby.
We were overfishing. If you saw a farmer going around shooting his cattle when they're really young, you say, what's that bloody lunatic? And we were catching fish with a rose, and well, that was breaking my heart in the spawning season because the shellfish came on the shoal, and I thought, why don't we stop? In the end, there was fish, let's fish, let's fish, let's fish. It used to be great Grimsby.
I read every single comment you leave. Yes, all of them, even the angry one, especially the angry ones. And today I want to talk about not as politician, not as an expert, but as an immigrant who came to the UK to work, to graft, to pay taxes, and to believe in something better. I walk the street on places like Grimsby East Marsh, and I will be honest with you, this is not the Britain from postcards. This is the Britain with border windows, police cars going up and down, and people counting coins and the till.
When fishing was going, I had 2 families. I had a family at sea and I had a family at home. Grimsby to me has gone downhill.
These days, there's barely any homegrown trawlers left in Grimsby's iconic docks, but that doesn't mean the industry is dead. Produce from Scotland, Iceland, the Faroes and Norway is sold and processed here instead, before being shipped around the UK. And at the crack of dawn, you get a glimpse of what Grimsby's fishing heritage looks like in the 21st century.
Straight in then, gents. In then, 270, 580, 270 a kilo. 270. Here at the Grimsby Fish Market, traders say they used to shift about 7,000 boxes a day.
And some of you wrote to me saying, "May this place look raw." Another comment say, "This is what happened when industry dies." And one more say, "Politicians don't care about towns like this."
Now they're lucky if they hit 7,000 a week.
Despite the change in fishing fortunes, the market's CEO, Martin Boyes, takes a more philosophical view and is far more upbeat than most when it comes to Grimsby's future.
The industry is quite complex, and what we've managed to do in Grimsby is to be able to diversify. So as you've seen today with some of these vessels, we're not just a fishing port anymore, we're also an offshore wind farm port. So what's called an operations and maintenance port. And that diversification has allowed us to continue with the Grimsby fish market, even at that small level, as you rightly point out. But like a lot of things, it's not like it used to be, but it's still here. We're still busy, people still eat fish, it's good protein, and there's still a good demand for it.
What does the future look like? Are you hopeful that things will get better for Grimsby?
I think it's a great opportunity, and what we've got to do is actually get that message over to the young people, particularly in a place like Grimsby, that there's a lot of jobs available in fish processing. It's not about going to sea.
As an immigrant, I find this shocking and familiar at the same time. Back home, when war disappears, poverty walls in like it owned the place. Here it wear a different coat, but it behaves the same. People talk about benefits like it's free money falling from the sky, but when you actually speak to families, you hear something else. You hear stress, you hear fear, you hear parents saying, "I pay the bill first, then I see what left for food."
People just do think, if you didn't do any good at school, well, you can always go to sea. Well, that was all right in the 1960s, but that's gone.
But it wasn't supposed to be like this. 70% of people in Grimsby voted to leave the EU in 2016, and it was hoped that Brexit would help change the future of Britain's fishermen.
It's an opportunity here to look at one of the ways in which this country will be able to take back control of a massive industry. Our coastal waters go out 200 miles, and there's a potential to do really well for UK fishing.
Martin says it hasn't quite worked out that way, but he doesn't regret his vote to leave the EU.
It was never as simple towards in the industry, well, certainly to me, as it was portrayed to the great British public. And one of the things you find about the fish industry is that when it's the election, is that economically, in terms of GDP, it's very, very small. But in terms of emotion, it's very, very high. So I just thought it was a bit of a bandwagon and a bit of a cheap trick, actually.
Back in London, we caught up with the Conservative MP for Great Grimsby, Leah Ninchie. She's positive the town is far better off outside the EU, and that any damage had already been done.
Well, let's be clear, 70% of people in Grimsby wanted Brexit. Undoubtedly, we're a Brexit town, and people wanted to be free of the EU. But people didn't make that decision based on business. They based that on wanting to be a sovereign country. When I talk to people about that, that's undoubtedly, they say, yes, we know that there are going to be pros and cons with being part of the EU or not being part of the EU. Now, there's this big misnomer of people who don't come from Grimsby that think.
And yes, I know someone will comment, but some people waste the money on drink or substance. Sure, that happened, but let me ask you, when hope is gone, what do people spend first, drinks or distractions?
That we've got some amazing fishing industry and that Brexit has been terrible for us. Well, let me tell you, the fishing industry...
Protege tu hogar frente a robos y ocupaciones con la nueva alarma de Securitas Direct con cerradura inteligente. Es muy de Laura irse el fin de a Londres sin saber en qué hotel va a quedarse. Es muy de BBVA.
Give us an idea how rough it is.
Well, the seagulls have got flip knives. Is that rough?
Grimsby's got issues, everyone's got issues. Society, like, no one can afford feeding themselves. Government
Police cars up and down the streets. There was a murder down that end of the street a couple of years back, so it's not got the best reputation.
They're getting things like universal credit, and they're also getting the cost of living payment, and they're going out and spending it on maybe alcohol and substances.
We had a stabbing at next door to me, and a few doors down I had arsonists with petrol bombs.
Grimsby. For hundreds of years, this port town in northeast Lincolnshire on the River Humber estuary punched well above its weight. It's fishing.
Think about it, I come from another country and even I can see it. This didn't start last year or with one government. This started when just vanished industries collapse and nobody replaced them with real work.
Industry became known around the world.
280, 590, 90, 280 kilo.
And at one point, the town became the largest and busiest fishing port on earth. But after the industry started falling, poverty came next. And with the fish gone, the town changed, with job losses, wages, and a lack of infrastructure. Today, average annual household incomes in the town's East Marsh are the lowest of anywhere in England and Wales, making it the poorest part of the country.
These flags represent our country in tatters.
This is Real Britannia.
It's a week.
I come from another country and even I can see it. This didn't start last year or when one government. This started when job vanishes, industries collapse, and nobody replaced them with real work. Finnish fed Grimsby for generations, then it died, and nothing strong enough came after it.
Day morning on Grimsby's East Marsh estate, where residents are beginning their day in the poorest part of the nation. Of course, that's not to say everyone here is living on the poverty line, but the data is striking. The average annual income for an entire household here sits at just £22,000 a year. That's over 10 grand less than the UK national average, and almost a staggering £86,000 below London's affluent Clapham area, which has the highest in the country at just above £108,000. It's in East Marsh where we meet Natalie, who lives in the centre of the estate with her partner and 4 children. She receives around £2,000 a month in benefits, but as she begins her shopping, with Christmas on the way, she's struggling to make ends meet.
I get tight, well,
Hi, Isaac and Mohammed and Agüita Fria 2026. Hi.
especially this time of year I get tight on my budget. I make sure my bills and I do my big shop, and then whatever's left, I get little bits, obviously, my Christmas presents and my son's birthday present, the birthday stuff at the moment. I'm not one of these with loads and loads of money, like, where you can just spend it every day and just go and do big shopping. I get quite a few benefits at the moment, because I'm classed as one of the boys' carers, because one of them's disabled. So I will start to get my Christmas presents, and I've done the shopping online, which is a lot cheaper than in shops.
And Natalie isn't alone. Up and down the country, the cost of living has hit homes and families hard, with the price of it.
One comment I read say, young people today don't want to work. I disagree. Young people don't want to work for ways that don't pay rent.
Energy rising by up to 60% in the last 2 years, and those rises are felt acutely here. Single mum Cheryl lives in a property that's covered in black mould and infested with mice, but turning up the heating means less money for her and the kids.
It is very difficult. I've got, like I said, 4 kids, and then I'm trying to keep on top of mould, mice, and condensation windows, because I've got that one, and my bathroom window is the same as well, so it is difficult. I've got my heating on all day, every day, because obviously with the condensation it means the heat's escaping, so my house is colder than what it should be. So I'm paying more on my gas and electric than I should be per week, just to keep the house warm, to keep my kids warm. It is very tight, yeah. I mean, I make sure my kids have always got what they need, but yeah, it is definitely, it can be a struggle. It feels awful, you know. I've got big kids coming up to me.
That is not entitlement, that's math. Energy bills up, food price up, waste barely breathing, and then we are surprised when people fall behind.
You know, we need to sort the mould out in the room again, mummy, or we've just seen a mouse run across the floor, mummy. You know, it's not pleasant.
Stories like this are sadly nothing new for Grimsby, and especially the East Marsh. The area is the most deprived across the whole of North East Lincolnshire, and nearly every street is in the top 1% of deprivation across the country. It's become associated with higher levels of crime, antisocial behaviour and homelessness, something visible all over Grimsby.
I want somewhere to live. I want somewhere to go. I want to work. But I'm just finding it hard.
How long have you been living on the streets for now, and what's that like?
In hell. That's just about it, really.
Residents here are aware of the problems, and sometimes help from within the community can come from the unlikeliest of sources.
With the lowest incomes in the country, it's perhaps no surprise that the nation's cheapest chippy is right here in East Marsh, where a portion of fish and chips with a side of peas will set you back only £3.
UK fish and chip.
As an immigrant, I came here believing hard work was the deal, work hard, play by the rules, and you move forward. But what happens when you work hard and still go backwards?
Prices have soared in recent years, with the classic takeaway now setting customers back £9 on average. But at Matthew's Chippy on East Marsh's Stanley Street, owner Stan Matthews explains how he keeps his prices at rock bottom.
Because I'm down on the docks, we buy our own fish. We've got our own smokehouse, so it all comes in line where we can get that product a bit cheaper. Saying that, they have gone up. We used to be £2.50, but because like gas has gone up, electric's gone up, we've up, like all the raw materials have gone up, so we have to up it by 50 pence. So for £3, we're still getting a good meal for £3.
With prices like this, and with a community in need, he serves plenty of punters every day who queue outside the door even before it opens. Some eat here every night of the week, and the product is well received, including by me.
£3 fish and chips, I mean, that's a steal, isn't it?
It's great for us pensioners. Every penny counts, doesn't it?
£3, you can't have it, can you?
I come here every time for fish and chips. The portion you get is brilliant.
Absolutely amazing, it's quality, good meal. You can't even buy a burger for £3.
There's not a lot of money in it.
That question is hanging over towns like Grimsby. Not let me say something unpopular because I'm not here to cuddle opinions. Throwing money along one fist this, cutting money along one fist this either.
Earn enough just to pay like the mortgage, the gas, electric, that's about it. But we're feeding people, that's the way I look at it. People are coming in and they're getting warm meals.
Yet, cheap takeaways alone aren't going to solve the issues facing Grimsby. While the cost of living crisis has exacerbated things, the challenges for the town are deep-rooted.
Are the needs here greater than anywhere else in the country when it comes to citizen advice?
They echo them. They
I think that's spice, isn't it?
yeah, got to be.
Tony Gaskin runs Citizens Advice for North East Lincolnshire and says more people are using his service than ever.
The real solution is boring, slow, and expensive real jobs, skill training, long-term investment, and not slogan, no promise, not tweets.
Amigos de la Cámara que continúa su próxima agenda.
Qué bien se portan los niños. Siempre nos dejan plátanos de Canarias para cuidarnos de la mejor manera.
Los plátanos de Canarias siempre están ahí.
Y seguirán estando.
Give us an idea how rough it is.
Well, the seagulls got.
Okay, let's go. We have the video here.
Vouchers, people needing help with homelessness. So around about 300% is a massive figure, but it's really worrying. We're seeing an even bigger percentage increase in personal independence payment and around about a 200% increase in council tax arrears, and worryingly about another 220% on energy debts.
What is it that drives places like East Marsh, West Marsh?
Here is my immigrant view. If the system does reward effort, it will reward escape. People escape into anger, into addiction, into apathy. Hello, Shawnee Becerra Diaz.
To be so poor compared to other parts of the country?
I think we're looking at a number of factors. We're looking at that people are in part-time employment, people in long-term unemployment, people with high percentages in East and West Marsh with people with long-term disabilities and struggle to find work. Where they do find work, then they're limited by the number of hours that they work. People have got struggling with fuel costs because pre-1990.
Hello, Perla Michelle Hernandez. Then everyone loves. Some of you message me saying this town still has good people. You are right. I met them, I spoke to them, I saw pride, humor, and resilience.
Properties that are difficult to heat, difficult to insulate. So there's a raft of problems, but there's also a really engaged infrastructure trying to bring people out of poverty in North East Lincolnshire, and particularly in these two wards. And the work that's going on is remarkable. But the challenges that individuals face is huge.
So what's the best solution? Well, it depends who you ask. And some members of the public have different ideas to the experts about what's causing these issues.
I was talking to two young lads the other day, and they was on about the cost of living. I said you should have lived through the 80s, then you would have known what the cost of living was. But it's a different generation now, isn't it? They won't tolerate low wages and bad work.
Anybody could walk into a job, and now because of how can I say this, family tax credit, people realise they don't have to work anymore, so they don't, and they take advantage of it.
A lot of people.
That's why this hurts more, because these places are not broken because of people, they are broken because they were left waiting too long. So I leave you with this question, and I want you to really think about it. If you live here with these ways, these bills, and these choices, what would you do differently?
Work, because the work and the work's often and working. So I know people are saying, well, that's a load of rubbish, but I spoke to people and said, well, I'm not working. The time I pay my rent, pay my council tax, pay my gas, electricity, no, I get food in.
if you look at the figures, there has been no inflationary increase in benefits for 10 years other than the one last year. And in real terms, people on benefits now are about 25% worse off than they were in 2010. With the cost of living increase as it hits, then that just exacerbates that problem and makes it more severe and makes it more difficult to manage. And in the interim, in the short term, increasing benefits by the rate of inflation is the right thing to do.
But with a quarter of people in the area classed as economically inactive as of March 2023, how did this once prosperous town find itself in this situation? Grimsby's fishing heritage stretches back over 1,000 years, and by the mid-20th century, it reached its peak, when over 500 trawlers a day would leave these shores in search of a catch. Then, the cod wars happened.
It seems that the countries that are barren us from the fishing grounds which have traditionally been ours are standing back now and taking the market away from us.
Between 1950 and 1976, the cod wars were a series of disputes between Britain and Iceland, which changed Grimsby and British fishing.
So I leave you with these questions, and I want you to really think about it. If you live here with these ways, these bills, and these choices, what would you do different? And what would you demand from those in power? Because blaming each other is easy, fixing the root is hard.
Forever, UK vessels have been fishing in Icelandic waters since the 14th century, but after the tiny country gained independence from Denmark, things changed. Iceland expanded the area other countries could fish from its coastline, from 4 nautical miles to an area eventually 50 times that size. While the industry was already in retreat, these moves, along with a declining cod population, decimated British fishing, and the EU's Common Fisheries Policy in 1983, which brought in additional restrictions of quotas, became the final.
And what would you demand for those in power? Because blaming each other is easy, fixing the root is hard. And if Britain wants a future where everyone feels included, it has to start by rebuilding towns like this, not talking about them once every election.
¿Te vienes aquí a vivir?
And if Britain wants a future where everyone feels included, it has to start by rebuilding towns like this, not talking about them once every election. I read your comments, I hear you keep writing, keep debating, keep disagreeing. And if you found value in this, share it, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, add it to the bell so you don't miss the next one. This channel exists because of you, and thus conversations matter. This video is begin with that, and I read every single comment you leave. Yes, all of them, every the angry ones,
Murder down that end of the street.
and especially the angry ones.
Got the best reputation.
They're getting things like
And today I want to talk about not a politician, not an expert, but as an immigrant who came to the UK to work, to graft, to pay taxes, and this.
Up part of the so-called Red Wall that crumbled to the Tories in 2019. Those we spoke to weren't completely sold on their relatively new MP, but with a general election just around the corner, there wasn't much appetite for Labour either.
The local area MP, have you seen much of her? Never see her. Can't remember what her name is. What's her name now? Leah. Oh yeah, Leah Nicker. Never ever see her.
Have you ever seen your local area MP?
No.
And what do you think of your local area MP?
I can't give an opinion. Somebody don't know.
I won't be voting because to me, it doesn't matter who you vote for, they're all as bad.
the unseen. I'm sorry, I try not to be political, but I follow the unseen MP. Never see her.
Jane Hilden King was once mayor of North East Lincolnshire and now works.
I I walk the street on place like Grimsby East Marsh, and I will be honest with you. This is not the Britain from Potts cars. This is Britain with border wisdoms, police cars going up and down, and people counting coins at the till.
It's for the fisherman's mission, giving support to retired workers and their families. He was born in the East Marsh and has a much better understanding than many about how Grimsby found itself in this situation.
We have driving docks, we have numerous companies from Fish Fingers, Bearside, Ross's, Finders, we have the Humber Bank with all this employment. Look around today, no food factories are very few, but they are very small. We've lost basically all the oil industries and the big industries from the Humber Bank. And I think generally the poverty is because no jobs, and we are suffering in this area through lack of employment. So therefore, because of employment, what jobs are around are very low paid, and of course our people are suffering really badly, and I don't think people grasp that, I don't think the government grasps it.
We put the comments of people in the town to Leonici, who told us,
It is impossible for me to meet all 88,000 residents who live in the constituency. I live in Grimsby. I have spent most of my life working in and around Grimsby. I meet constituents in the town every week and work hard to represent them, and will continue to do so.
it's fair to say that towns like Grimsby sometimes come with an unwanted reputation. Post-industrial decline is a story heard up and down the country, and walking around the town it's hard not to notice the deprivation on display. But there's more to a place than just its high streets, and Grimsby has a proud community. For 18 years, entertainer Andy Carr had a unique insight into his hometown and what makes it tick. He was the original Mighty Mariner, Grimsby Town Football Club's official mascot. Every week, he saw thousands of fans make their way here to cheer on their team and their town. And he's passionate in his love for Grimsby and doesn't.
After watching this, he'd lie and tell me in the chat where you are watching from. As an immigrant, I want to know, is your town feel forgotten too?
Understand why it comes with such a reputation.
It annoys me because I wouldn't, I'm a homie. I love living in the area in Grimsby Cleethorpes. My family are the same. There's a lot of areas, there's more areas than bad areas for me in Grimsby and Cleethorpes. But it's just a shame that once again Grimsby Cleethorpes is being tarred with the negative brush when actually there's a lot more positive to come out of the area, and the people in Grimsby and Cleethorpes, there's a lot of good people. Yeah, we've got some
Share this live with someone who lives in a struggle area. These stories are not statics, they are real life with what pass every day.
the area outweigh the negative, which I actually think they do.
How do you feel then when you hear about those statistics from the ONS?
It's one area. We're talking about one area of Grimsby Cleethorpes. I haven't, to be fair, seen the statistics of what the other areas are, but what about all the other areas in Grimsby?
Subscribe to the channel if you believe war should pay enough to live with dignity. This should not be a radical idea.
Cleethorpes, that probably nowhere near the bottom. They've obviously singled it out. It's good in one sense that it's been singled out because maybe they can do something about that area. But I personally would never move away from Grimsby Cleethorpes. I love living love living down here, and the fact that I'm a big Grimsby Town fan, I couldn't move away and not come to the games.
But as crowds leave this stadium every other weekend and head home, what sort of situation are they returning to? In some way,
Right in the chat is the problem here benefit or the lack of proper jobs. I read every single comment.
it feels like Grimsby has been left behind. Depending on who you ask, it could be in for a bright future. One thing feels certain though, that the last couple of years have not helped the situation. And if UK living standards don't improve fast, it could be the difference between Grimsby's resurgence or further decline.
They're not bothered about this down here, and that's been like it for years. Look, you can see it's just rubbish everywhere.
There's a lot being done. Whether or not it's enough, that's debatable. Whether or not it's too late, I doubt it. I think that we've got time to try and turn it into grant.
A lot more could be done. Because I know I'm not the only house with mould or mice either, so a lot more could be done to help.
Government needs to massively step up with it.
As someone who came to UK to work and ask you what happens when hard work is no longer an out.
Imagine being on this bus. This is not Star Wars. It's what some passengers have endured on public transport.
You feel very uneasy on a bus. People blasting fireworks at buses, a lot of gang violence, a lot of knife crime, just loads of fights and arguments.
How does that make you feel when you're taking the bus?
Quite scared, to be honest, because you never know what someone could just come on the bus and do.
When I was growing up, there was this in the bus, so I got learning difficulties, and sometimes it does scare you. I'll be getting a taxi home because I know that I'll get home safe.
They will literally open the back of the bus, be ready to get on and then get off. You don't know what's going to happen. It does make me feel unsafe.
Before I go, I just want to say this. I came to the UK to work, to contribute, and to build a life. What I see tonight is not lazy, it's not failure, but people pushed to the edge by a system that stopped listening. I read your comments, every of them, and I thank you for your honesty. Even when we disagree, this conversation matter because silence is what keeps places like this invisible. If you believe towns like this deserve real solution, not a slogan, share this live, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and activate the bell so we keep the discussion alive. This is not about left or right, it's about dignity, work, and future that actually includes everyone. Thank you for being here. Goodbye.